you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here's the video that you came here for. The bigger picture of college sports is starting to get shaped at the exact same time. What do I mean by that? It is that over the course of the last 2, 3, 4 days, and for the next 2, 3, 4 days going forward, both the SEC and the Big 12 are hosting their spring meetings. Coaches, administrators, school presidents, commissioners meeting together to kind of discuss the small picture stuff of college sports, the big picture stuff of college sports. And so what I want to do now is talk about what is going on at each of the locations, Destin, Florida for the SEC, and of course the Big 12 holding their meetings as well, because there is a lot of really important information coming out. For the SEC, I believe they are very much trying to shape the future of college sports and what it looks like. The Big 12 is in survival mode, expansion mode, and I want to get to both. Let's start with the SEC, because in my opinion, there are some very fascinating things going on in Destin, and it's not what you think. What you think the big story is right now in Destin is, this 8 versus 9 league game schedule in football, which we talked about on Monday's show. Do you go to 8 league games and keep 1 rival, or do you go to 9 league games and keep 3 rivals? That's all anybody wants to talk about. Just one problem. Kirby Smart said he doesn't really care. Greg Sankey said he didn't really care. And ultimately, my belief is that what we are going to see is that we are going to have a transition year of 2024 where the league probably only plays 8 league games. But then from there, we probably get to 9 eventually as schools are able to get out of some contracts and drop some games that are already scheduled, all that good stuff. So that topic to me feels like it's probably not as important as everybody is making it out to be. But there is a much, much, much bigger issue at play here, and that is the topic that I think behind the scenes the SEC is trying to figure out, and that is, what is the future of NIL? What is the future of the portal? And how do we get this stuff under control? And it's interesting, right? Because I would say, listen, I think it goes without saying, you guys and girls know, I love college sports, staked my career on it. Yeah, we talk some NFL here or there, some NBA here or there. But for the most part, we talk mostly college sports on this show. And the number one question that I get asked by everybody, from people that work in college sports as coaches, administrators, whatever, straight down to fans, the number one question that I get asked constantly is, how do we get this all under control? Nobody is anti-NIL. Nobody is anti-transfer portal. But what everybody is anti is the chaos that is going on right now, where you have NIL in a form of pay for play, and not only pay for play, but frankly, deceitful pay for play. Schools are offering this, but they're not delivering. Players are being guaranteed this, but they're not delivering. Players are leaving and not getting what they're promised when they get to campus. Some schools are more advanced with their collectives. Some schools aren't. Some schools have 2, 3, 4 collectives fighting. It's chaos in the streets. And oh, by the way, you know what else is chaos? How about the portal? Nobody is anti-portal. Nobody is saying that players, once you sign on the dotted line, you should be stuck there forever. But forcing players or allowing players, I should say, to just be able to leave whenever they want, that isn't good either. And it's not just for all the cliche, boring, it's about competition and stick it out. No, there are real issues. One, it's unfair to your teammates. It's unfair to the coaches, all that stuff. It's also in many ways unfair to you, for all the reasons we've discussed previously, including graduation rates, this, that, the other thing. When you go to 3 or 4 schools in a 4-year period, sometimes you're not going to be able to get out of there with a degree. So it's chaos right now, and it's not sustainable. And so I bring it up, and I'm bringing it back to the SEC for this reason. That is the number one question that I get. How do we get this all under control? And I've had one very simple answer over the last couple months, last couple years, really, as this is all unfolded. I have said consistently, I don't know if I've ever said it on this show, but behind the scenes, I've talked to people and I've said, look, there is only one way to get NIL and portal under control. It is to make student athletes employees of their schools. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying that's what I want. And I'm not saying I'm smart enough to figure out all the intricacies of it. That's what lawyers are for. But that is the only way to get things under control, to get everyone on the same page, to keep NIL under control, portal under control, tampering under control. And I'll tell you this, it's starting to sound like SEC coaches agree with me. A lot of them had a lot to say on this topic. First of all, Hugh Freeze, new Auburn coach, friend of the Aaron Torres pod. This is what he said. I just love this line because it's straight and to the point. He said, "We are the NFL right now. We just don't have player contracts." Nick Saban gave more of a long, eloquent answer, but he said, I'm going to give you the long version of what he said. He said, "I would certainly agree that there are some challenges that the current situation that we're in presents. In terms of amateur athletics, NIL is a good thing for players. They have a way to make money. But when it turns into pay for play, then you're now getting into a different area. I think when you start talking about players being employees, unions, now you're getting paid for something. So now you have to pay taxes. We probably invest 85 to 100K on each player that we have, whether it's academic support, tutoring programs. There's a tremendous investment made in player development, not only football-wise, but academically as well as personally." He continued, but he ended by saying this: "If that's what you want, let's unionize it. Let's make it just like the NFL." And so listen, I know that a lot of you are listening, driving around, at the gym, listening on YouTube, listening on podcast. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think this is really what anybody wants. And remember, Nick Saban in that speech gave the whole, is this what you want college sports to be? But I'll be blunt, I don't really see a way that we go in any other direction going forward. And let me explain why. If we do not make players employees, all we're going to do is keep going down this path towards collectives. And one of the big topics that I give credit, the coaches were talking about this on the record in front of media over the course of this week in Destin. They just said it's crazy. And what is, I guess you would say, unfair about it is that everybody plays by a little bit of a different set of rules under the current structure. And I'm not saying feel bad for Nick Saban, and I'm not saying this school's definitively paying this and this school's not paying that. What I am saying is, if you leave it up to individual schools and individual states, you get completely different parameters for completely different schools. So as an example, we've talked about it a lot, but think about, like, I actually, I'll use an example, Ross Dellinger, who I've referenced quite a bit, really great reporter for Sports Illustrated. He put out an article a few days ago basically explaining how the way the law is written in Texas, essentially Texas and Texas A&M can use their their school administration, their school fundraising arm, to funnel money into their collectives. That is not illegal because by state law, they are following the rules. I saw this. How about this in Missouri? A new state law in Missouri. And I hope I'm not boring you. I'm just trying to tell you what your administration, your school, your coaches are dealing with. In Missouri, there is now a state law that says that if you are a Missouri high school athlete and you're committed to a state school, you can collect NIL. So obviously, huge advantage for Eli Drinkwitz, huge advantage for Dennis Gates, the basketball coach, in that players can now start getting paid as high schoolers, but only if they commit to Missouri. They commit to Kentucky. They commit to Illinois. If they commit to whomever, fill in the blank, Ohio State, Penn State, they can't get paid, but they can if they go to Missouri. And so when you hear Nick Saban talk about this, when you hear Hugh Freeze talk about this, when you hear all of these coaches talk about this, they're not saying this is what they want, but they're saying this is what we need. Get players under contract. By the way, the contracts will protect the players too. So this isn't all let's defend the old guy that's making $9 million a year as a football coach. That's not what I'm saying at all. Contracts are going to protect the players too. If they're guaranteed a base salary, if you will, of 150 or 200 or whatever the number is, they're going to go ahead and get it. They're going to go ahead and get it because they will be under contract. They will have a union. They will be protected. But so will the schools, so that every offseason they can't they don't have to re-recruit their players. They don't have to worry about tampering. They don't have to worry about somebody coming in and stealing players with a higher NIL bid that may or may not be legit. I'm not saying it's perfect. And to be clear, I'll take it a step further. I'm not even saying it's what I would love in a perfect world, but I don't see things changing. It's the same with the portal. Keep in mind, players are going in 2, 3, 4 times. I know the NCAA says that they're going to try to limit it. You can only go in once as an undergrad. Good luck with that. Somebody's going to lawyer up and they're going to be playing next year if they want to. And so I just bring it up to say, I'm not saying this is what I want, and I don't know how it's all going to work out. To be clear, I'm not a lawyer, don't claim to be. But I believe in the very foreseeable future, probably sooner than you think, at the very least, football players, maybe men's basketball players will be employees of the school. Not saying it's a perfect solution, but I think it's the only realistic solution on what's going on right now.